All right, so I have got the 1990 Alabama-Auburn program. Okay, I have procured this from my stash here, my Bama program stash, and I'm looking here, and I've got number 81 right here. Take a look at that right there, and let me know what your first thoughts are when you see that.
Wow, I just miss being in that good a shape. Because I haven't been that slim in a long time.
Yeah.
I joke people now I don't have any hair and I got a bigger belly, so I say I look more like Buddha now.
Man, it's just it really is incredible to me. And you finished a little bit before me, but I mean, just how time gets away from you, and then like you're a former athlete, I'm a former athlete, and it's just it's as you get older, it's just harder and harder to maintain it.
Yeah, I've been having that conversation here recently with some friends about this. It seems like every decade that you get, in like 20s, 30s, 40s, it seems like each decade goes faster and faster.
Yeah.
Because I don't mind saying I'll be 58 December the 31st, so it's just mind-boggling that I'm almost 60 years old.
Yeah, unbelievable. Well, I'm just in maintenance mode now. I mean, I haven't even tried to get to the next level on anything. I'm just trying to maintain what I've got. I'm not trying to improve or do a pose down or anything like that.
I have flashbacks from time to time, and I say, man, I got to get in better shape, and I'll do a good job for 2 or 3 weeks of cutting back on the sugar and pushing back from the table a little bit. But then after about 3 weeks, the Bluebell ice cream comes back out. So it's just hard. Yeah. I don't have the discipline I used to have.
I tore my Achilles back in 2023, October of 2020, and that really set me back. And I didn't work out for a long time there. And I'm a runner. I know I don't look like a runner, but I've run a couple half marathons in the last couple of years, and that's kept me in decent shape, and so I'm trying to kind of get back to that. But it's I started out like just doing 2.5 miles, and then a buddy of mine encouraged me to just kind of keep improving my distance, and so that's the only thing that really keeps me in shape there.
I hate running. Even when I was in shape back when I played ball, I hated running. And so even now, if I get a cardio in, it's usually just walking on the treadmill, walking through the neighborhood, or maybe doing a stationary bike. But I hate running.
Yeah, you and I could do some speed walking maybe.
Oh, maybe that. Yeah, and I've never. What's this thing people talk about? Runner's high.
Yeah,
I don't get that.
Yeah.
You ever experienced it? The runner's
high? There is something about it. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what a runner's high is necessarily, because I don't know if I can get that fast, but I will say there is something to be said about getting out in God's creation very early in the morning, with it kind of misty outside and the sun's coming up, and you're listening to a sermon or something like that. There's something to be said for that.
Watch you get all that on the golf course. No running.
Yeah, that's right. I want to go all the way back to Oneonta. That's where you grew up. So I want to know what life was like growing up for you in Blount County, Alabama.
It was great. I loved growing up in Oneonta. It was a small community. Everybody knew everybody. It seemed like a much bigger place when I was growing up. When I go back and visit now and drive down certain streets, I'm like, man, this is a small little road, fields we used to play, pick up football in, pick up baseball, kickball, whatever. They seemed like they were giant fields, and now it's like you could probably mow it in about 5 or 10 minutes with a push mower. So it was, but it was great. Everybody loved sports. There wasn't a whole lot to do. We didn't have a bowling alley. We didn't have a movie theater. We did have a teen center where it had arcades and pool tables and that kind of stuff. But as far as like a lot of extracurricular activities and places to hang out, it's pretty much involved in just driving between the Hardee's and the Jack's restaurant and our old gym, McDaniel, I think it was called McDaniel Gymnasium parking lot. And so you played sports. That's what you did. So I played football, played basketball, played baseball, ran track, and that's what we did for fun, was play sports.
When did you start playing football?
I started in the 3rd grade, playing organized sports. But again, like I said, when I was younger than that, we'd get out there and just, we played a game called smear, where you just throw the ball up in the air, and whoever caught it, everybody tried to tackle. And so I learned how to.
We played that one. Yeah, had another name to it too, I think. So I don't want to mention on. Yeah,
I've heard that other name, but we didn't call it that. We called it smear because the one person that caught it, everybody tried to smear.
Yeah, we did that too.
So it really taught me how to elude people.
Yeah.
And so my first position was tailback, and I was a tailback for the first 3 or 4 years of my career. And as I got older, started doing other things like quarterback, receiver.
Yeah.
But I started in the 3rd grade.
Yeah. What positions did you play in basketball, and what did you play in baseball?
Basketball, I couldn't really shoot the ball well, and I was quick, so I played guard. I was shooting guard, and I made All-State as a shooting guard my junior year in high school. And then our center was a year older than me. He graduated, and so I ended up playing center my senior year. So I played a different position.
At 6'1".
Yeah, 6'1", yeah. We were 3A classification, so we didn't have a whole lot of tall people. I think the tallest guy on our team was 6'3", and I was 6'1". But I played football, was in the weight room. He didn't play football, wasn't in the weight room, so I was a little more physical than him.
What about baseball?
Baseball, I pitched and played center field. Played everywhere. I played infield too. Second base, everywhere except hind catch.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't stop blinking. Every time, they would throw the ball and the batter would swing, I would blink.
Yeah.
So it was just a psychological thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But besides hind catch, I pretty much played everywhere. But my 2 main positions, I would say, were center field and pitching.
Who were some of your sports heroes growing up, and then what teams did you like?
I was a big Cowboys fan growing up. I liked Staubach and Tony Dorsett. There was a linebacker called Hollywood Henderson. I don't know what his first name was, but they called him Hollywood Henderson. And so I was influenced a lot by my uncles.
Yeah.
I had 3 uncles that were big sports fans, and so they liked the Cowboys. That's how I became an Alabama fan. They liked Alabama. So I just naturally gravitated toward them. And then as I got older, those same aunts and uncles lived in Atlanta for parts of their life, and I would go over and visit with them during the summertime. So I kind of adapted all of the Atlanta teams then, and I became a Falcons, a Braves, and a Hawks fan, and I still pull for their pro teams to this day.
Yeah. Now, did you watch MLB baseball? Were there some baseball players or NBA basketball players that you kind of like to emulate as well?
I didn't necessarily say emulate them, but trying to see Dale Murphy, of course, I was a big fan. I can't remember some of those guys' names now.
Some of the Braves players.
The one they called the crime dog.
McGriff. Fred McGriff. That's right.
Back in those days. I remember there was a third baseman too, Horner.
Bob Horner. Yeah, I could probably name the starting lineup from the '85 Braves team.
Bob Horner had blonde hair, but it was kind of curly. And he was a little chubby.
Yeah, hit 4 home runs in a game one time. Rafael Ramirez, Ozzie Virgil. Bruce Benedict. So
Otis Nixon. So I grew up kind of pulling for those guys. But the guys later on that were so good in the '90s that probably should have won more than one World Series.
Absolutely.
Like Maddox and
Glavine and Smoltz.
And what's the one that played third base?
Chipper.
So I'm getting, like I said, you can tell I'm about to turn 60. My mind ain't what it used to be.
Now, tell me about your high school rival. Like, who were the teams that were your rivals?
Without a doubt, and I used to refer to them, we were kind of like Alabama and Auburn. When I was coming along, it was Susan Moore.
Okay.
So
now that's in Blount County.
It's in Blount County. We very rarely played outside of Blount County when I was coming through. Most of the team.
Cleveland.
Cleveland. Yeah. We didn't play Appalachian a whole lot because they were 1A, but we played Cleveland. We would play Locust Ford. We played Susan Moore, Blunt Ford, J.B. Pennington.
Okay.
So most of our schedule was taken up with other county schools.
Now, did Nectar have a high school?
No.
Anything in Nectar?
I think depending on where you lived in Nectar, I think half of them went to Susan Moore and half of them went to J.B. Pennington.
Yeah.
Now we did play Douglas once or twice as I got older. Trying to see, we played Springville every now and then, but Asheville. Yeah. So it was usually, if it wasn't a Blount County school, it was somebody real close.
Yeah. Now tell me about your recruiting process. Obviously, you ended at Alabama, but were there some other schools in the mix? And then how did you ultimately end up in Tuscaloosa?
Like I said, I grew up a huge Alabama fan, so I grew up dreaming, about playing there. But as as I got in about the 10th, 11th grade and started to get on some of these schools' radars, I was eventually offered by Tennessee. I took an official visit there. I took an official visit to Georgia. I was offered by them. Vanderbilt.
And this is that receiver, right?
Receiver.
Okay.
Yeah, or athlete, because like I said, I played a tailback some still. I did a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I played probably every position on offense. In the specialty position, I played some quarterback, mostly receiver, played some tailback. I punted, I kicked off, I returned punch, return kick off. So I was recruited as an athlete, really. Tennessee, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech.
Okay.
Yeah. So those were the three schools, most of the schools that recruited me. I took an official visit to Tennessee and really enjoyed it. You know, they were really good back then, and just their campus and in Knoxville had a real good trip. And Ken Donahue, who was a defense coordinator on Coach Bryant for a long time, was back at Tennessee. He was a defense coordinator, was my recruiter. And I started thinking, I said, man, Tennessee is in the Smoky Mountains. It's a nice school. You know, they're winning. I said, you know, it'll be
Johnny Major's the head coach.
I said, might not be a bad place to go to school. So about that same time, Joe Kynes was recruiting me for Alabama, and he contacted me and said that Coach Perkins wanted to come have dinner with me. And so he came and had dinner, and I didn't know at the time he was coming to put the pressure on me to commit.
Yeah.
And so we were sitting at the dinner table, and we were eating dessert, and he started talking to me about school and what I was interested in studying, which at that time was communications. And then he started talking about the football team and where he thought I would fit in and how I could contribute. And he just looked right at me and said, okay, Russell, can we count on you being there next year? And I didn't know he was coming to get me to commit. And I was just thinking in my mind, I was like, well, you know, I just had a great visit to Tennessee. I still want to take some of these other visits. I said, but if I say no or I don't know, he may not offer me a scholarship anymore. That's what I was thinking in my head. So I'd say, yeah, Coach, I'll be there. So that's how I committed.
But you felt good about it, though.
I
did. I felt a little pressure.
Yeah, even though I was, enjoying the intention and visiting some other schools, I probably would have ended up going. Going even if he hadn't asked me that night.
You know what's sad to me, and I used to do a lot more sports writing than I do now, long form type stuff, and I would do all these big profiles, and I did one on Ray Perkins, I did one on Vince Dooley, I interviewed Johnny Majors one time, and so
all three of those coaches were coaching when I was
and it just seems like we're losing so many coaches from that era, and it's very, very sad. I mean, Pat Dye's gone. Dooley's gone now. Majors is gone, and it's Billy Brewer at Ole Miss. He's gone.
Coach Perkins is gone.
Perkins is gone. I mean, it's just very sad. Yeah. And it's like when you lose that era, and a lot of those guys are as I've talked to them, they're very similar in personalities. Very similar in what they're interested in. But when you lose people like that, you also lose a ton of history too. All those stories, all those anecdotes that a coach can share, you lose that as well. Have you thought much about that, about how that old guard is kind of going away a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. And I think it, carries over to the state of where college football is today.
Yeah.
You don't have players that are sticking around very long and creating loyalty to any one particular school, and coaches the same, because they're being offered so much money. When they do have success, they're being recorded away, and so it's kind of hard, I guess, to build those stories and continue certain traditions or whatever when there's so much change.
Well, I've thought a lot about that too. It's like, let's say that somebody, plays on the 2020 Alabama team and then the next year they end up somewhere else. When you have and I'm just saying this hypothetically, but then when they have, 20 years down the road in 2040, when they have a 2020 Alabama reunion, I mean, what's that person going to think? Yeah, sure, they were part of the program, but they left and went somewhere else. I mean, all through the history of Alabama football, those teams were people that it was a story of players that stayed. So there's something to be said for that about hanging around.
Yeah, it is. But then at the same time, it's something, I don't know if it's the right term to say, it's something to be said about having the flexibility. But, I'm not against players getting paid because there is so much money generated through college athletics. I think it's fair to share some of that revenue with them. But I just wish there were more rules and guidelines.
A little bit more governance. Yeah. That's fair. All right, so you get to Alabama, and you know you're flexible on what you could play, but you end up making a decision through an assistant, Ken Walker, to move over to tight end. Is that right?
Yeah.
And he was at Pinson Valley. Yep. He knew how good you were in high school, knew that you could play the position. Tell me kind of how that story went.
Well, I don't necessarily know that he knew that I could play tight end. He just knew I could play different positions.
Did he invite you to play tight end?
Yeah, he did, actually. Yeah. He was the head coach at Pinson Valley. We played them my junior year, and they beat us in Oneonta. And then we played them again my senior year, and we beat them at Pinson Valley. And then when I was recruited to Alabama my redshirt freshman year, I think he came the following year as the tight ends coach.
Yeah.
And I was redshirted my freshman year, and I went down to Alabama as a receiver. Like I said, I got redshirted my first year. And then the second year, I still was probably about 8th on the depth chart or something, so I wasn't going to probably see a whole lot of time. My redshirt freshman year as a receiver. But at the time, Howard Cross was the starting tight end. And then the other guys that were behind him, you know, nobody had really taken the bull by the horn, so to speak, and really stepped up as a bona fide second streamer. So Ken Donahue called me into his office, not Ken Donahue, but Ken Walker called me into his office one day and said, hey, you know, I know you're at receiver, you're 8th on the depth chart, probably not going to see a whole lot of playing time at that position this year. And he said, you know, we need some more people at tight end to back Howard up. And he said, I talked to Coach Curry, and I just want to know if you would be interested in changing positions to tight end. And so my first question was, or my first statement was, yeah, I don't mind if it's going to allow me to get on the field quicker. And so that was the extent of that conversation. He presented it like that, and I was like, yeah, I didn't have a problem changing. So
yeah. So I'm interested in the tight end position, and selfishly, and I talk a lot about my son here in this podcast, but he's 7 years old. He is absolutely huge, and I've got him sort of pegged to play tight end. Right now, he's playing receiver on his flag football team, but he's going to be probably my size, you know, 6'5". I'm not going to say my weight on here, but you know, but he's going to be a bigger kid, and I think he's fit for tight end. So I want to know a little bit more about the intricacies of tight end, because it is in a way, it's an overlooked position. But you know, obviously, you've got to block, you got to catch. I don't know if they asked you to block as much as they did Howard Cross.
Yeah.
But tell me about that position. I want to know, you know, what does it take to be a good tight end? Yeah. What do I need to be teaching him?
Well, size does help, and I was an anomaly, I guess, when it came to that, because like I said, I was 6'1", originally recruited as a receiver. I ran a 4.45 40 when we reported as freshmen, but you know I was on average was right around 4.45 40. Only weighed 195 pounds when I had this conversation with Coach Walker, and so I wasn't really thinking about the size and the strength that it would take to block some of those bigger guys as a tight end. But I was very sound in technique. I could power clean a lot. I could snatch a lot. And then I had strong legs, so I could squat a lot. So that would help me, you know, make up a little bit for my lack of size, you know, and my explosion off the ball. But yeah, they didn't want me to be a Howard Cross when it came to blocking. They even told me, so, you know, Howard, he's going to usually get his hands on him. He's going to have that defensive end 5 yards down the field. They just told me don't let him come across the line of scrimmage.
Now, why is height? Why does that matter so much? Like if you're 6'5" versus 6'1", why does that give you an advantage at the tight end position?
I think it helps with leverage, you know, blocking bigger guys, but also the tight end, most of his routes are going to be in traffic, you know, and over the middle of the field. Yeah. So I don't know. I just think it gives the quarterback a bigger target. Yeah. And you know, like it allows you to kind of see over some of that traffic in there too. Yeah. My thing was I would try to find the soft spots, you know, not necessarily having to look over people or having the quarterback throw over the top of somebody. I would try to find the open little windows and spots in there. And, you know, if I could, when I turn around to face a quarterback, if I saw somebody in my line of sight between he and I would just kind of move a little bit to the left or right. So, yeah, I mean, the intricacies of the position, of course, you got to block because, you know, you're on the end of the line of scrimmage. But also, a lot of times basketball skills transfer over to a good tight end too, because again, you're working inside a lot of time with traffic and then learning how to get your body into people and wall them off and block them off and give the quarterback a throwing lane.
Do you watch tight ends now when you're watching a ball game? Or are you kind of looking to see what they do? And who are some guys that you see in the pros that are just incredible?
We're just talking about that correlation between basketball and good feet and good hands and football. I mean, you have some of your best tight ends ever were basketball players. Again, you can probably have to help me with names, but this guy played tight end with the Falcons not long ago, but he's retired now.
Tony Gonzalez.
He played basketball in high school. Antonio Gates was a basketball player, and he was I think he just got inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame. There's another guy that played for I think he played for Miami in college and played with the Saints here recently. He's kind of transferred around a lot. Hadn't done as
well. And then you've got guys like Mark Bavaro. You've got Art Monk. People like that. Those are some old guys. Back in the day, but. I think it's a position that's highly underrated, and you've got some incredible guys that have come through at both the college and the pro level. Let's talk more about Howard Cross. I mean, what'd you learn from him?
Yeah, Howard, and he had the biggest hands of anybody I've ever met. If you shook his hand, his fingers would literally touch me right here whenever I would shake his hands. And so if he ever got his hand, he had a great blocking technique where he would come off the ball and he could grab a guy right under his breastplates, so he didn't have his hands on the outside of his body where the official could easily see that you're holding. Yeah, he would get his hands right inside, but he'd grab them right under his breastplates, and he could just control them. And steer them. And so I learned blocking technique from Howard, and I needed all the technique I could get. Because like I said, I was undersized, and so like I said, he had some of the biggest hands. Now, for a little while there in college, we were joking about having stone hands because he didn't catch the ball that well. But it wasn't because of he didn't have good hands. I think it was mostly mental. But I think once he got to the pros and played with the Giants, I don't remember him dropping a pass.
Now, walk us through, I think your first scoring play was at Penn State, right? It was a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, you did your homework.
You and Bobby Humphrey kind of teamed up on that. Walk us through how that happened.
Well, it was actually Clay Whitehurst that threw it, and we had practiced.
See, if I really would have done my homework, I'd have pulled out Clay Whitehurst.
Well, Bobby was involved. It was a 2-point conversion. And we had just put it in that week before we went up to Penn State to play that game. But it was a toss sweep to Bobby going to the right-hand side. And then he would hand it off to Clay Whitehurst on the reverse, coming back around. Well, I lined up on the left end line of scrimmage, and I'm supposed to block down, hesitate, get lost in the traffic, and then come back out in the corner of the end zone. But when Clay got the ball, he was running around the end. He just kept running, and I'm wide open, standing there waving my hand, throw the ball. And then right before he getting ready to get tackled by a linebacker or something out there, he's slipping because it was wet and rainy that night. He's slipping, and he just kind of tosses the ball over the back of his helmet into the air, and I have to dive and catch it. So I catch it, and it's a 2-point conversion. I asked him after the game, I was like, man, I said, I was wide open. How come you didn't throw the ball? He said, I never saw you when I threw it. He said, I just knew I was about to get tackled, and I just threw it in that direction. So I was like, wow, that's crazy.
All right, now I want you to take yourself out of that. You were an Alabama football player for just a second. Just take yourself out of that, because if you think about this from a standpoint of a former player, you may not answer this question the way I want you to answer it. But when you think about the teams y'all played, you played Notre Dame while you were there. You played Penn State while you were there. You played Miami when you were there. What was a team that you thought, wow, these guys are pretty good?
Penn State was always good. They were always fundamentally sound, and you knew you were going to be sore after that game because, they were going to hit you hard. And so we probably played them the most out of those teams that you just mentioned. I only played Notre Dame once, and that was in my redshirt freshman year, so I didn't really see the field a whole lot against them. My redshirt year, I was sitting in the stands watching the game. That's when Cornelius Bennett hit that famous painting. And then you mentioned Penn State, and who was the third?
Miami.
Yeah, we played them in the '89 Sugar Bowl. That was the only time we played them there. That's when they were really good. But we played Penn State every year, and it was always a tough game.
When you go to Penn State and you've got that kind of environment, I mean, it's got to be. Look, I mean, Alabama's in my opinion, the greatest college football program of all time, and that's why I'm asking the question this way, because like you still can go to a place like Penn State or play Miami in the Sugar Bowl or play against Notre Dame. You're still impressed by another program. And that's the way I wanted to ask the question.
And their fans are very classy. I remember when we would go up there to play and we'd walk out of the locker room to take the field for warm-ups, their fans would be lined up by our locker room just to like watch them come out. You know? And they were always very respectful. They didn't say anything crazy or anything like that.
So you get the score against Penn State, but I think your first actual touchdown reception was against Southwest Louisiana. Is that right? 88?
That sounds right. I remember the reception. I think that was my first one.
Was that a big deal?
You would have thought it was a bigger deal. I think, as a matter of fact, Howard Cross was injured in that game, and so I got to start in that game. And I remember the pass was from David Smith. He was the quarterback at the time. Yeah. And I just remember running a route, and as soon as I turned my head in to look, the ball was on me, and I just kind of threw my arms up, and luckily, caught it in my chest. And at first I didn't know I had scored, because when I caught it, I immediately fell, but I fell across the goal line, and I saw the official give the touchdown signal. But I don't know if I was just tired or what. I just kind of got up and gave the ball back to the official and went to the sideline. I didn't celebrate as much as you probably thought I would have.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be a big deal to score a touchdown in the SEC, but also to score for Alabama. I mean, like it's one thing to just be a player that's on the roster. It's another one to score a touchdown, and then going to 89-90. I mean, you're the top receiver. I mean, that's you got to look back upon that fondly.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then, like I said, this dreaming of playing football for the University of Alabama and to have your first touchdown catch, and I won't forget it. And like I said, I remember the team we were playing. I remember who threw it, and I couldn't quite remember if that was actually my first one. But now that you brought it up, I think back it was.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of fun memories, and wish I had had more videotape of. I'm sure I could probably research and find some stuff on YouTube or something. But wish I had a better library of stuff so I could show my kids or something.
I think the Bryant Museum's got a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I probably need to kind of look into that.
I mean, just think about it. All my high school career is probably in somebody's basement somewhere in VHS tapes.
Yeah,
so, I mean, at least you can have access to yours. I don't know where mine is.
Yeah, I could probably research it somewhere.
Yeah.
But yes, my point is, it's not as easy or readily available as everything. Everybody can record stuff with your camera phone now.
That's right. Yeah. So you're the leading receiver, I think, in 89 and 90. But I mean, I think you had like either 28. Let me see. Look at my. I think it was 28 catches in 1990.
Yeah.
Think about how the game has changed. I mean, but now, I mean, look, offensively, I mean, the Stallings approach is tall sweep right, tall sweep left. We're not throwing the ball a whole lot. Yeah. Not going to the tight end a ton. But does that just kind of amaze you that like the game has evolved and changed so much that, I mean, those were probably big numbers in 1990.
Yeah, well, it wasn't as big a numbers. We had Homer Smith the year before that. My junior year actually had 51 or 52 receptions. Yeah. And then, of course, we had the coaching change. Coach Stallings came in with more of a run game. Like I said, it was tall sweep, but we handed it off to the fullback a lot too. And then to go to 28, it was different. And like I said, but I had 3 different offensive coordinators the whole time I was there, and 3 different head coaches. So it seems like you was running a different offense about every other year.
Was that tough for you? I mean, like to kind of navigate that, and then to not get as many touches from 89 to 90. Was there some frustration there? Like, hey, I'm not getting the ball maybe as much as I need to.
It was frustrating in the sense that I wanted to contribute more and help the team more. But I wasn't selfish. If we were winning, and I have a problem with it. But we did start out 0-3, but that wasn't because we weren't good. It just seemed like some freaky things happened each game. We lost to Southern Miss that first game. Brett Favre was the quarterback then. Then I think we lost to I think it was Florida next in Tuscaloosa. They blocked the punt for a touchdown late, and then we lost to Georgia over there. There was controversial non-call, I think, where their tailback false started and they didn't call it on fourth down, and they ended up getting the first down and eventually a touchdown. They went for 2 and got that. I think it was 17-16. Then we went on a winning streak after that. But, it was just frustrating in the sense that, I wasn't, I guess, experiencing the success that I'd had the previous year. But, we went on that winning streak. I wasn't frustrated as much because we were winning.
Who were you closest to? Perkins, Curry, Stallings? Who do you feel like you were the closest to in those?
I get asked that question a lot, and I felt like, without a doubt, I was closest to Coach Curry, and it's just simply because I played for him longer. I played for Brett Perkins 1 year, but I was redshirted, so I really didn't play for him. And then he was gone after that. Then Bill Curry was there for 3 years. And then Coach Stallings came, and he was just, I was a senior, so I only played 1 year under him. So that's not saying, well, people always ask me, which one did you like better? But I liked all of them. I get along with anybody. But as far as being the closest, it's just simply because I was there longer under Coach Curry.
One thing that was neat about the years that you were there was, you lost. This is not neat for you, but you lost Auburn, but then you get it back in 1990. I mean, because I know there was a lot of frustration from 86 to 89, not being able to beat them, but then you turn around in 90, and at the end of that year where you do kind of go on that roll, you get them in Birmingham.
And that's the only time I beat them. And I can remember I got interviewed right after the game on the field by one of the local news stations. I remember making that comment that I was finally glad to beat them, and now I can go home to Oneonta and not have to, take questions about being 0-5 against Auburn, even though 1-4 is not that great. At least we did win one.
And look, I'm not saying this to disparage the Auburn teams at all, but there were some, from an Alabama standpoint, there was some frustration because there were a couple of years there that you just, you thought you had the better team. I think that's a fair statement, right?
Yeah, and 89 was probably the most frustrating because we were 10-0. But it was the very first time we ever played at Auburn. And so, it was, people ask me a lot of times, too, what's the most memorable game I ever played in? And oddly enough, it's a loss, and it would be that game. Just because, the fans were so happy to get that game on Auburn's campus after many years of trying and Coach Bryant turning them down. The electricity and the energy in the stadium was just crazy. I don't think the fans ever sat down. I don't think they ever shut up yelling. It was loud the whole time. And, we went in undefeated. We were 10-0, and I think we had just gotten moved up to number 2 in the country. And they ended up beating us 30-20. I definitely think we had a better team, but they were just not going to be denied that day.
I mean, I guess when you think about it, you could certainly make the case that was, even though it was a loss for Alabama, but you could certainly make a case that was one of the biggest, if not the biggest game in Iron Bowl history. It was, look, I'm 12 years old when that happened. I think it was December 2nd, 1989.
That sounds right.
I think that's right. And it was such a huge deal, looking back at that. And as a Bama fan, I think I cried after the game. As a 12-year-old, but I can't even imagine what it was like as a player being in that environment. And I want to talk more about Miami for a second because they had such an incredible run, in the 80s, but again, y'all are Alabama, and so what's your mentality going into that game in the Sugar Bowl? Because they had won multiple national titles in the 80s. Alabama's kind of on the way back up, trying to get there. So, what was your mindset going into that Miami game in '89?
Well, it was another game. You know, we just prepared the best we could because we had a little time off. The Auburn game was the last regular season game, so we played them in the Sugar Bowl. So we had like 3 or 4 weeks of practice leading up to that. And you know, like you said, they being Miami were very good, and they kind of ruled the '80s. Very talented teams, but we were by no means intimidated by them or anything. You know, felt like we could beat them. And I think they were only averaging giving up like 9 points a game that year, and then we ended up scoring 25. I think.
Yeah, it was 33-25.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, they ended up being named national championship that year, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Because I think Notre Dame and Colorado were playing each other in the bowl game, and whichever one was ranked number one got beat, which opened the door for Miami. Yeah.
Do you think that game impacted the '92 game? You know, I've thought about that, and I think I can't remember who I asked. I think I asked Gary Hollingsworth that question. But like, do you think how Alabama approached? Because there were some holdovers from that '89 game that were still playing in '92. Do you think that impacted? Did it have any impact on the '92 game?
I never thought about it, and there were some holdover players, but it was a different coaching staff.
Yeah,
because when we got beaten '89, Coach Curry was the coach, and he actually resigned in the locker room after that game. And so when we played him again in '92, of course, Coach Stallings was the coach. So it was a completely different staff. But I really didn't put any connection between those two games.
What was it like to hear Coach Curry his resignation after that game? Was it just total shock in the locker room? I mean, like what was?
Yeah, it was total shock, man. Because like I said, at one point in the season we were 10-0, ranked number 2 in the country. We had lost to Auburn. And then after that game, the decision had already been made. He didn't make the decision at the end of that game that he was leaving. I'm sure he'd already had his conversations with Kentucky, and they had agreed upon some stuff. So, we were just kind of left there with our mouths, wide open, like, what just happened. And so it was kind of a weird time.
But he still said it to your face. At least he did that. He didn't leave and not tell y'all, not address the team. At least did that.
Me personally, I don't know about other players. I wasn't mad at him. I was just shocked. We just had a great year. And in my opinion, we got better each year that he was there. And I think a lot of people thought that he got fired, but he didn't get fired. If my memory serves me correctly, Hootie Ingram was the athletic director at the time, and had actually made a 2-year extension offer to him. But I actually, I don't know if I ever told anybody in public about this, but I actually played in the East-West Shrine All-Star game after my senior year. And Coach Curry was a coach for my team, but he was the Kentucky coach at the time. And we were sitting on the bus after one of the practices, and he told me, he said, Lamont, he said, I hated to leave Alabama. He said, I could have stayed and put up with the ridicule from the fans or whatever, because, it gave him a hard time because he had never beat Auburn. That was our 3rd time to lose to Auburn when he was there. He said, my wife couldn't go to the grocery store without people harassing her. So that's why, why he left.
Walk us through your NFL experience, because I know you get drafted by the Eagles.
Well, I didn't get drafted. I signed as a free agent.
Okay, signed as a free agent. So tell me about that. Tell me about that process, and were you disappointed that you didn't have an NFL career? Tell us how that went down.
Well, again, that was a dream of mine as a kid too. To play football at Alabama and play pro football. I was disappointed I didn't get drafted. I had a great junior year, but my senior year, again, I had gotten moved back out to wide receiver because we had 2 receivers that got hurt, Craig Sanderson being one and Prince Wimbley being the other. So I moved from tight end back out to wide receiver and didn't have quite the year I had my senior year as I did my junior year. And so I didn't get drafted, but as soon as the draft was over, I got a call from the Cardinals, I got a call from the Eagles, the Bengals, maybe one other team. And then after considering the teams that I got contacted about signing a free agent contract, I just thought I had a better chance of making the roster with the Eagles. And started out, had a good count, and I was trying out as a receiver, not as a tight end. And after a handful of practices, we were running conditioning after practice, and I ran by the head coach, whose name was Rich Kotite. And as I was running by him, he said, Russell, he said, keep it up. You got a good chance of making a team. So that was very encouraging to me. But it wasn't but about 2 or 3 days later, I pulled my hamstring pretty bad, and I missed about a week and a half of practice. And that's a eternity when you're practicing in camp, two practices a day. And I couldn't really get out there and compete, so I ended up getting cut, a couple of weeks before the final roster cuts, whatever. And so, I was, encouraged, and I wanted to stay in shape and try it again. And I got picked up by the Birmingham Fire, who was the World League team there in Birmingham, but really didn't feel like I got a great opportunity there. So at that point, I was the type of person, I was always a good student. I had my degree, and I was like, I don't want to be chasing this dream every year, going from camp to camp. And I said, I'm just going to get a job. I just started working in the Birmingham area.
Did you? I'm sure you got a chance to meet Randall Cunningham and Reggie White and those guys. And was that the post Buddy Ryan era? Was that?
It was Buddy. It was the first year Buddy Ryan was gone. It was Coach Tight's first year there.
So he took over for Ryan. Okay.
But the star players were still there. Randall Cunningham was a quarterback. But they had a really good team back then, and it was still the Buddy Ryan players.
Yeah. But you got what was Randall and what were they like?
Yes, Randall was super nice. He was cool. The whole team. It was just like the locker room of being in college. They're just a close knit unit, and guys got along well. I tell you who was there was Jim McMahon.
Oh gosh, yeah.
He was a backup. He was a character. He was funny to be around. But I enjoyed my time. I think I was in camp a total of 6 weeks with him. Really nice guys.
It's got to be such a hard thing to make an NFL roster.
It is. It's a big jump from high school to college, and you would think that it wouldn't be as big a jump from college to pros, but it was another big jump. Yeah. And so all those guys up there are great athletes, and sometimes it's a fine line. Between who gets chosen in a certain position, and some of those guys, didn't have their degrees, and so they didn't really have anything else to fall back on, and they were doing and trying everything they could to make the team or whatever.
And to your point, sometimes just like an injury or something like freak happens, and it's that makes the difference. And what's interesting to me is I know you signed a free agent contract, but when you're going through that process. Are you looking at the rosters? Are you looking and seeing, okay, where could I, just like you mentioned earlier, where could I fit in? Okay, I'm looking at this roster. Hey, this is not looking too good for me. I may go over here. So it could even be that. That where you sign could make or break you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I looked at the choices of people that was interested in me, and I just thought that was the best place that I would have an opportunity to make the roster. And like I said, the coach, said I had a good chance of making the roster after my first couple of weeks of practice. So I probably made a good decision as far as that goes. Just an untimely injury and things just didn't work out. And even if I didn't get hurt, who knows, I still may not have made it, but that definitely didn't help. But I'm the type person that I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. I grew up in the church. I believe in God, and I just believe everything happens for a reason. And so it just wasn't intended for me to be an NFL football player.
I'm with you on that, man. But you did go into sales. You've been a salesman for a long time, right?
Most of my career.
What do you like about that?
I just love building. I just love building relationships with different people. I love the interaction, not only between the physicians, but their staff, their receptionists, the nurses, the billing people, everybody. I love people, and I love building those relationships. And then, but you're there to sell a product too. So to be able to, I guess, in a sense, move the needle, move from a baseline of where you are when you took over, and be able to see that product grow. But since I'm in pharmaceuticals, to be able to see that product actually help patients and help make their lives better and the quality of living better. It's just, I just love everything about it.
Yeah, and there's a competitive aspect about it too. I mean, I think former athletes are good at that because they're kind of competitive. They want to make the sale, and that's kind of a natural fit for a former Bama player, right? Yep.
Well, you're competing against, I guess, people within the company and other territories, because there are awards for that. Whoever finishes as the top rep, or they have contests and stuff like that. But also the competition between your competitors. Yeah. Because usually there's always another drug in the same class, if not a handful of them. And so to be able to, I guess, compete to have the highest market share in that disease state, so to speak, depending on what type of medication you're selling. Yeah.
Now, tell us about your family.
I have 2 kids. My son's 25. He graduated from University of Alabama. He was a smart kid, or he got a full academic scholarship. So he was athletic too. He played football in high school and baseball at Broward Christian, and got a couple of scholarship offers, but decided he didn't really want to play college sports. But he works for J.P. Morgan Chase now, living in San Francisco. He's been out there for 3 years, doing well. And then I have a daughter who, again, she was a good athlete too, made the same decision. She really didn't want to play college sports. So she's different, though. She says she didn't want to go where me, my wife, and my son went to college, so she wanted to go out of state. So she decided to go to Southern Miss over in Hattiesburg, and she's a junior this year. But she's loving it and having a good time, and doing well in the classroom.
Yeah. Now, do you get to go out to San Francisco at all?
I've been out there several times, especially when my son first moved out there. Went out to help him get moved in and set up, and we've been back a handful of times since then. But I'm due for a trip there. It's been about a year and a half.
Does he live in the city of San Francisco or on the outskirts?
First year there, he lived in Oakland. Okay. Train over every day to work. He works in the financial district downtown, and then the last 2 years he moved over into downtown San Francisco.
Now, have you been to Sausalito?
I have. Yep.
What do you think about it?
I grew up fascinated with California, so I love everything about it.
It's unbelievable, man. Have you driven down PCH? Have you had the chance to go down? I think it's US 1, maybe.
Okay, not
Pacific Coast Highway.
Okay, I don't think we did that.
Oh, man.
And I do have relatives that live in Sacramento, so I've driven up there a couple times. It's about an hour and 15-minute drive.
You need to go from
Napa Valley. We've been through.
Yeah, you can go from Sausalito all the way down. You can go like San Luis Obispo, and then I think you can go down to Santa Barbara. So it's oh man, it's unbelievable. What's your favorite thing to do in San Francisco?
Oh, there's so much to do. The first time we didn't get a chance to go to Alcatraz because you kind of got to put in for those tickets 3-4 months ahead.
Yeah, okay.
We thought we could get out there and get the tickets. Yeah. So the second time we went, we ordered the tickets way ahead. It was pretty interesting to go to Alcatraz and take that whole tour. Yeah. But the food. We do all the touristy stuff. Go to the Ghirardelli chocolate factory. Yeah. Do the little windy road down the hill. I forgot what they call it. But, it's just we went to a Giants baseball game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I need to go back out there and maybe go to a 49ers football game.
Be great. Now, do you put on the Southern Miss swag? I mean, do you have a Southern Miss T-shirt or hat that you put on?
I do have a Southern Miss T-shirt that I put on. Yeah.
Does that sting you a little bit going back to that 1990 game with Favre? Does that sting you to have to put that on a little bit?
It doesn't bother me that far back now, but they did beat us in baseball last year.
Yeah, yes, they did.
That stings
the
more.
Regional. I think. That's right.
That stings more than that loss.
Yeah,
because I've kind of gotten over that. That's been years.
Yeah. All right. Now I showed you this picture, but I trolled your Facebook page a little bit, so I did. I told you I needed my phone, so I'm going to get this out. And I'm interested in this comment that we had here. So this is the. So you posted on November 29th, 2024. It says, feeling nostalgic. So listening to some music from college days. I was often nicknamed Christopher Williams. And we're going to flash this up, by the way. I was often nicknamed Christopher Williams or Al B. Sure by my teammates and friends. I love music, but can't carry a tune in a bucket. So tell me about this.
Yeah. Well, those were two popular R&B singers at the time, Al B. Sure and Christopher Williams. Yeah. So, I kind of favored them, light complected, had the good hair back then at the time. But like I said, it wasn't because of my singing. I cannot sing. I wished I could. I listen to music all the time. But it's mostly just because of the physical similarities.
Right. Well, you were better looking than those guys. And I think Al B. Sure had a song called Night and Day.
Yeah, he did.
Oh man, I was such a huge R&B fan back in the day. I miss it. I miss R&B.
And then Christopher Williams, one of his most popular ones was "Don't Wake Me, I'm Dreaming."
Okay.
So you hadn't heard that one? Pull it up on Spotify or Pandora.
Yeah.
Christopher Williams, "I'm Dreaming." Is
Okay.
the name of it. Yeah.
Sounds good. We'll do.
You probably heard it, just didn't realize that was the name of it.
I'll check it out, man. Heck, I love that kind of music. Well, listen, man, this has been awesome, and it's been so good to talk to you, and we just appreciate you coming on, and hit me up next time you come to Jasper.
All right, well, I want to get one of those hot dogs you eat earlier.
We're going to do it. We're going to go to JJ's Cafe in Jasper. Thanks, man.
Yeah.